Ho, ho, ho! Comic book fans, this is Anchor Pete, or I'm just fucking Pete now. There we go. Pete on Comic Books Transformed. Merry Christmas from me and my favorite Cybertronian elf with his many shelves over there, Brian Corsair. Brian, it's cold where you live, is it not?
Yes, we were just talking about how it's about 14, 15 degrees in both our locations right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
fun times.
Yeah, we are just a couple of days away from Christmas. December 23rd, there's an Arctic blast going through our country right now. And I think that at least one of the two shows we're going to discuss today has gotten a pretty cold reception from a lot of
You
people.
know, you know what? I'm going to go on a limb here. I think maybe the weather's doing it to me, but I have a pretty cold reception to both episodes today.
Whoa, oh shit. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. We're going to have a little interesting discussion then because
Yes.
we're discussing two things, guys. Doom Patrol, Season 4, Episode 4. And then we are also discussing Willow, Episode 5. So, I just spoilers, I did not like that episode of Willow, but I did like this episode of Doom Patrol.
There were a couple merits for each, probably a little more for Doom Patrol this week. But
Yeah.
overall, I think this is probably one of the weakest sets of reviews I think that I've gone through. We were told that we were generous in our review of Willow
Yeah.
early on, and I promise this week I will not be that generous.
Oh, yes. We're both going to be Scrooges when it comes to that fucking show this week.
Bah humbug.
Yes, bah humbug, fucking Willow. Take that, Warwick Davis. Go back to playing the Leprechaun. So anyway, Doom Patrol episode 4, Casey Patrol. Casey Patrol. So, this is one of those weird episodes that many of the shows we like have every so often, where it's just like the main characters aren't there at all. You're dealing with totally different side characters. And is that the reason why you didn't like it so much?
No, I just think it it felt stretched out. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this would have worked better as a B plot or half
Mm-hmm.
of an episode or something. I like the overall message it's trying to say. That the people, the Dannysons need to kind of get out of their comfort zone and then go be in the real world. And then we're also introduced to Space Case, Casey Brink, who is from the Gerard Way version of Doom Patrol, which is a lot more recent. And instead of being a creation of Danny, she's a creation of Dorothy, who is back. And I really like Dorothy. I really like the actress who plays Dorothy. I really liked her in season 2. I was kind of bummed that she really wasn't in much of season 3. So I'm hoping she sticks around for a bit longer here. But I think the episode just was too long for the story they tried to tell. They didn't give too much reasoning behind what was going on. I guess ultimately that this is all tying into some comic artist, I guess, trying
Yeah.
to bring back Immortus. So he now has the amulet from the previous episode, and now he has this other trinket that has. Does it have the essence of Miles Calder left now?
I think so, yeah.
That Dorothy had, and that's apparently 2 parts to bring Immortus back.
Yeah. Dude, that is a really, really good point that you made about how like this would work if it was like a B plot to something that the Doom Patrol was doing in the A plot. Really good point. I actually did feel that too. I felt like it was kind of stretched out a bit. Um, Especially because you had a couple of sequences where who's the head of the Danny camp? What's
Morally corrupt.
morally corrupt?
I'll never forget that name because I think it's so clever.
That is such an awesome, yes, that's an awesome drag queen name. Yeah, I felt like there was like maybe one too many scenes with Morally Corrupt sitting down with Dorothy discussing what she had to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, they repeated themselves a little bit too much.
Right.
I actually I didn't like Casey at first. I faced
Yeah.
Casey first.
Yeah.
I didn't like the take of the I'm a comic book and I'm going to talk like this sort of kind of thing.
Yeah.
I did. She did grow on me by the end when she was kind of like, wow, like I wasn't real and now I am, and I guess I got to go experience life sort of. And
Yeah.
I think I'm being generous there. I hope that gets better. I did like. I mean, so far I like the comic version of the character better, who is a normal person who was normal speaking and didn't know she was in a comic book initially. So
Right.
she just thought she was a normal person, and then she had, all the other things are the same. She has the artificial leg. She is from the comic book. Her dad is Terminax or Terminox.
Terminox, yeah.
Terminox, all that. Like, that's all there, but I didn't like the angle they took about, her being self-aware and brought in as a fake character initially. Like, I think I would have liked it better if it was started from her point of view.
Okay, man.
But then again, it's just it's hard to pull that kind of thing off in a show here. That's like, it's easier to pull off in a comic book, especially in the comic where she started. It was kind of like a relaunch of the series after a very long time. It kind of made sense here, but she's being inserted into an existing current thing, so it would have been hard to do it the other way. I understand that, but not a great first impression for me.
Yeah, man, I must have asked Santa Brian for some good points this year because you were just delivering them today, man. That is a really good point because I actually, when I was writing our notes, I was like, wait, did I actually like this character? Because I felt like I did, but then initially I didn't like Casey either. And I think it's exactly what you said. She has this sort of like, oh, I'm a comic book character, so I'm going to talk in this exaggerated way, which is such an ironic thing since it's like a show that's based on a comic book, where the people get comics that write this show. Whenever you have a character like that, that's sort of like that Buzz Lightyear type personality, it can be pretty obnoxious. And luckily, by the course of the episode, we feel for her because of her situation with her father.
I really liked the angle they took where where at one point Dorothy stops Space Case from using her lightning powers to like obliterate one of the denizens taken over by the Vetrax. Man, that's a mouthful. And so like, we don't want to hurt them because they're our friends, and in the real world, if they die, they may not come back. Right. And that kind of like sticks in her head, and she just certainly doesn't want to defeat her father for the 144th time. Because she's afraid that he won't come back. So I really like that angle there, and I think this, and again, the whole concept of getting Dorothy out of her little rut, getting the denizens out of the safety of Dannyland, and it back into their own, created safe space in the real world. I think was a really good message and really good ideas, but it just dragged on a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, I totally understand. That point that you made about how she sort of realizes that, oh, people can die here. I feel like that's such a big part of this show on a macro scale, and it's certainly a big part of the show this season, which seems to be like really focusing on the idea of like immortality, not being able to die. Immortus is the main villain, and that's his whole shtick. Niles Calder obviously brought back all the people from the Doom Patrol, or like kind of experimented on them in ways to make them be immortal. And the whole idea behind him, they even kind of just remind us of it in the very beginning of the episode where Dorothy says that he's essentially prolonged his life so he could take care of her. So like that's a very big part of this season. And I mentioned this in our last discussion, but like I actually really like that they try to like streamline and sort of tightly connect all these loose, random, weird things from the comics to make it sort of more like it all kind of fits into one kind of story arc versus all this random craziness that's in the Grant Morrison run and the Gerard Way run. So how many episodes are there altogether for the season? Do you know?
I think we're getting one or two more, and then there's a break. So I think it's 10, 9 or 10.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, if you look it up, I can kind of just like kind of keep this going. But like, to me, it feels like, okay, maybe you get like one more episode without Immortus, and then maybe the next episode after that, they'll introduce Immortus. That'll be the break after that. And so we'll get to see who he is. And
sorry, buddy.
No, it's all good. Believe me, I can relate.
He wants to talk about shows that he hasn't watched and can watch, so I didn't think it was a good idea.
Right. But what I was saying was that I think we'll get like one more episode with sort of like a random adventure, and whatever that thing in that adventure will be, it'll be like yet another thing they'll use to bring back Immortus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so the preview for the next episode was everybody gets turned younger again.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the preview.
Okay, I never see them before, but apparently they I think they had one last week too, which I thought was no, maybe they didn't.
Well, they did
yeah, you know what? I'm not used to seeing it, but this week I happened to catch it. So
yeah.
Next week's episode is called Youth Patrol, and everybody seems to be like teenagers or something.
Oh, that's cool. Like a teenage Cliff and teenage.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna do that with Cliff because he's a robot.
Yeah.
But we'll find out.
That is cool. That's very cool. Yeah, this episode had like a recap in the beginning, and I'm not used to them having recaps too.
Yeah, they've had recaps this season, almost every episode, just to kind of like they in that first episode they did mention some of the members of the Sisterhood of Dada. They did Dorothy did pop up at one point in that one of those previews too. So
okay.
They have been doing that. I think it's helpful.
Yeah. So one thing that I mentioned in my notes, and I was wondering what you thought of this, is like, do you think that it's possible that like the whole idea that like almost like the thesis of this show is going to be that the world was regular, maybe there was some magic in it, but then like Dorothy, who has this ability to sort of like make fantasy become reality, do you think that she sort of like infected it with like comic book kind of reality, and that's why there's sort of weird comic booky shit in this world?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how central Dorothy is going to be. Like I said, I do like the character and the actress playing her. I do hope she stays around, but I'm not so sure that they're going to have something that big and show defining about her. I think whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. The way I'm kind of envisioning the show ending is actually maybe not how it goes in the comics, but I imagine that they are going to save the world somehow, and that they're all going to die doing it.
Okay.
Because because they've all lived so long and they've all gone through all these different things, and I think they're all going to accept it and become actual heroes and sacrifice themselves.
Yeah, that's a really good point, especially because like in the comics, the Doom Patrol dies a lot. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because even when I was saying that idea that I had, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't right though, because don't they reference other superheroes? Like they mention Superman and stuff sometimes.
They have before, yeah, but I mean, who knows? This show doesn't even take place in the same universe as Titans, so it's like I don't think it matters what they reference or not. It could be this. It could be the same version. It could not be.
Yeah.
It could be the Snyder thing. It could not. Who knows? But
yeah. It's so crazy. They tied it all together into that Crisis on Infinite Earths, that the CW event. They did show the Doom Patrol at one point, but they were like their own separate world.
Yeah, well, that was the version that was in Titans, I believe, that they showed.
Okay.
Because the Doom Patrol shows up in one of the early Titans episodes.
Okay.
It's Niles. I don't think Brendan Fraser was there yet.
Okay.
But it's or maybe it was Matt Bowen. The cast wasn't set yet, but they showed up, and that's considered a different version than the one we've been watching.
Wow. You know, we always kind of bring this up when we have these discussions of like the DC stuff, but like the most recent updates, right, since the last episode that we did with James Gunn, like I think we mentioned this, but like Henry Cavill's completely out. And then I think that they were saying that their goal was to have moved towards like a Crisis on Infinite Earths. The way they were going before, they were going to do like a Crisis on Infinite Earths. But now that James Gunn has come in with Peter Safran or whatever his name is, they're nixing that. They're doing something different. Did you hear that too?
I didn't hear anything about Crisis, but I believe it. It kind of makes sense. It kind of works towards kind of a reset. I think they were aiming for a reset as well.
Yeah.
And they may have not been recasting everyone necessarily in that reset, but they probably wanted like a story-wide reset to kind of unify the point that they're starting from. I think that's essentially what James Gunn and Peter Safran are going to do, but they're just not going to make a movie to do it. They're just going to do it.
Okay.
But I really appreciate James Gunn on Twitter and just being open about things and to fans and kind of debunking things. And like he seemed to kind of talk it out with The Rock. I mean, he's even said now like he won't be back or anything like that. but he wishes everything as a success in the future and all that. So I hope that goes some way to ease the fire James Gunn trends.
Yeah. Restore the Snyderverse, fire James Gunn. Yeah, just replace one with the other, right?
Yeah, like he angered like every group. The people that wanted the Snyderverse back, the people that thought the Black Adam was going to be a new start outside of the Snyderverse, so he just pissed everybody off. I'm very curious to see what's going to be kept and what's not going to be kept. I also saw like a message from Zachary Levi today. He was talking about what's the state of things for him and Shazam. He said like he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know, but he's happy to have done what he's done, and whether he's involved or not, he's going to be excited for it. He said so. It seems like they're just trying to make amends everywhere and just make this as clean of a break as possible.
Yeah. I don't like to go off on tangents that are like away from what we're talking about with the show, but like I did want to talk to you about this, and maybe the people that are watching this are big comic book fans, big DC fans, but like Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths just ended this week. That's the big DC event that was going on, and it's interesting because they made Black Adam such a big part of Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it's like they must have thought that the Black Adam movie was going to be a big hit, that it was going to be this big sensation. Because, it's weird reading this comic now after the movie kind of came and bombed, and you're looking at it, you're like, oh, they're trying to make Black Adam a thing.
Yeah, but, I mean, Marvel's done that swung and missed too with probably both the Inhumans and the Eternals.
Yes.
You saw their prominence come up when that Inhumans TV show came out. You saw the Eternals make a comeback when that movie came out.
Yeah.
And I don't think, Inhumans whiffed real hard. And I wouldn't say Eternals whiffed as hard, but it certainly didn't leave the impact that it had, that they intended.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And even other examples at Marvel's, like when they had Fear Itself, which is kind of like a Thor event, and that sort of was trying to cash in, I think, on like Thor, The Dark World, and I think Iron Man 3 was around there, and Iron Man's a big part of that. So they do that. Like the comics try to like ride a wave, but it's kind of funny.
They want people to leave the theater after seeing the movie and be like, oh, what can I go buy that to continue reading about or learning about these characters? Like, oh, here's this new book that has these characters in them, so let me go buy it.
Yeah.
I don't think that ever translates that much. I think the same people that were buying them beforehand are probably buying them still, and maybe there's a few new people here and there, but it's not much. I've actually been bringing Brandon to the comic store every week, and I let him buy 2 books every week.
God bless you.
And I hope this. Lately he just kind of flips through the pages and makes up his own language reading them.
Nice.
So he's had some interesting stories.
I'm sure.
I want to say that Venom is Jewish, according to Brandon.
I celebrating Hanukkah.
I didn't even know that he knew what Jewish was, but he does. So. Well,
Bendis did write him for a while, so.
Okay.
Yeah. He makes every character Jewish, right?
That's true.
Yes. So, unless you have something else to say about Doom Patrol, actually, you gave me like a little segue right there too.
Yeah, no, I think I'm pretty clear there. Maybe a little bit of a miss this week, but I hope we get back on track next week.
Nice. So my little segue is that you're talking about bringing your son to the comic book store, and we're talking about the idea of sort of continuing the love for comics and stuff through passing it on to generations, right? And I just read today that 50% of Disney Plus subscribers are actually people that don't have children, right? And I mean, who knows where the fuck that person got that number from? But what I thought was interesting about that is they used it to make this point where they said that comic books kind of used this theory of like appealing to the older people like you and me versus trying to like draw in younger kids. And I think that comics really suffered because of that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think there are a lot of adult Disney fans. Oh man, I probably can't say that. Never mind. Something related to work, but never mind.
It's all good.
The other thing too about adults with kid related things, there was an article recently about that the adults buying action figures is the largest growing sector of toy buying right now.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised.
Right. Yeah.
But like but like it's just the thing. There's a lot of adults that haven't let go of their childhood, like me. Whether it's bad, who knows? I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that will say it's very bad.
Yes.
But
Don't feel shame, man, because I mean I'm in my daughter's room for those of us that are listening as a podcast, and I was recording here now. And we played this game where I had some Power Rangers, I had some Transformers, and my two daughters had Monster High dolls. And like the Decepticons were trying to break into Monster High so they could take their fear energy and transform it into Energon. But the problem with my Transformers, what's that?
I'd read that book.
Yes, I'm sure you would from IDW, but the problem is, Brian, is that my Transformers are not as big as like your Unicron back there or some of your other combiners and stuff, and so their Monster High dolls dwarfed my Transformers, and they just proceeded to just step on my Transformers' dicks with their Monster High heel shoes. Like you just had like Megatron on the ground with
my balls.
Yes, my Deceptor dick. Like, but it's just like stepping on Megatron's crotch with these
Okay.
giant high heels. So that's what life
Maybe
is like.
I'm gonna rescind my subscription to that comic. Maybe.
Yes, or maybe get more people into it. Who knows? But this is 40, right? So anyway, the reason why I bring all this shit up as a segue is you have said before a couple times that like this show maybe is not for us. Willow's not for us. That's for like a younger generation. Do you feel like that still is true? And do you think that's why the show is not getting the love?
It's hard. I think they're still banking on the nostalgia of our generation that saw that as children.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they're making it for a younger audience.
Yeah.
And I just don't think, that's like just two generations that maybe don't get along right now. I guess it's millennials and Gen Z. Is that what it is?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that it's two different audiences, and it's. I don't think the show has enough of the nostalgia to power through the kind of more modern stylings of the show, like the modern dialogue, the music, and the person that said we were generous about Willow, they mentioned it's a kind of like a CW teen drama style feeling to it, and I kind of agree with that.
Yeah,
there are points where I can look past that because I do have a soft spot for this. Is it a franchise? I guess it's a franchise with one thing in it.
It is now. Yeah,
I have a soft spot for this property. I was a movie I was fond of as a child. I watched it recently, and it's cheesy and corny, but I still enjoyed it.
Yes.
And I still like the show. I still do. But man, this episode tested me.
Yeah. Well, it is. I think just to go along with what you said, that Disney, as a corporation, they're trying to appeal to every single group, right? Like obviously, it seems like they're trying to appeal to children. And for a while there, it seemed like Disney's main audience was like young girls with princesses, but obviously it's like branched out, right? And so I think that what happens is when you try to please everybody, you sort of make this like lukewarm thing that maybe ultimately pleases no one. And that's what I think that this show is. I still like it, and I even like a few of the characters on the show. However, this last episode was rough. So, like, we should just go into it. Episode 5 is entitled Wildwood, and so they went to Wildwood, New Jersey, right? They went to the beach.
Yes.
Yes.
And they partied with the Bone Reapers.
Yeah, there you go. with boners?
Bone Reapers.
Oh, I think you said they partied with boners.
I'm sure some of them had boners, too.
See, my mind keeps going like because I'm going with the idea that they're at Wildwood, New Jersey, with like dudes, like bros with boners, and then you're talking about bone reavers. I'm like, well, they probably have boners too, Anyway, all right, we're off track here.
All right, so the first thing I have to say about this episode, the first thing that just bothered me, the opening sequence. They're playing like a punk rockish alternative kind of song, and they're just running away Scooby-Doo style from the Gales. Man, just. Come on, man! Like I understand that not every show needs to be this dark, gritty, nightmarish thing that tries too hard, but like the opening sequence felt like Scooby Doo here, and I don't think it needs. I think they needed to at least keep the Gales as something sort of menacing. I mean, I know they're kind of goofy, like uh, kind of like almost like Universal monster style things there, but I think you can do it in such a way that they're not like too dark and gritty, but they're still intimidating in some way.
Yes.
Like now, to me, they're a joke because they were just running around, passing each other and whatever. So somehow Willow had a flamethrower on his back. I don't know. I mean, it's like, no, I mean, I kind of laughed at that, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, where did this thing come from? Where did it go? It wasn't magic. He was wearing something on his back, and he just found a flamethrower. So like, I mean, again, I did laugh at it. He said, like, Borman asked, like, where'd you get that from? And he's like, I don't know. Don't worry about it. I absolutely did, but it's like the beginning of this episode opened as like Scooby Doo, and it bothered me.
Okay, well, the beginning did kind of bother me too, but I feel like what's really bad is what that guy said in the comments for us and what you were talking about before. It's just that like the characters talk as if they're from our time. Like I said this in our notes, where it's like none of the threats or anything seem real or concerning because the characters are talking as if they are people watching a fantasy show versus people that are living in the fucking fantasy world.
I mean, I think it can work. I mean, it has worked. I mean, God, what the hell was the movie with Heath Ledger and Alan Tudyk and
Knight's Tale?
Knight's Tale, yeah, it worked in Knight's Tale.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe is that what they're going for here? Is Knight's Tale like, but Willow and Knight's Tale, Willow Tale? I don't know. It's while I do think it worked in that movie, I don't think it's working at all times here. Sometimes I can look past it, and that's fine. Like I think even in the movie, they didn't really. Everybody didn't exactly talk like it was, a typical fantasy land,
right?
And so I can kind of see it. And again, they do want to like this is supposed to be a little bit more fun, a little less serious. So it's not going to be like super serious like Game of Thrones would be or Rings of Power or something like that. And I appreciate that this is a little more lighthearted, but they're going a little bit too much with it, I think, at times. And this episode really, that struck hard for me, this episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? They go into the Wildwoods, and there's the Bone Reavers. They find them pretty much like right away. The Bone Reavers killed one member of their party, like in the first episode. Now you could just brush it off. You could be like, oh well, they didn't like that guy.
I forgot about that even too. That makes it even worse.
Right. Because you could brush it off. You could be like, oh well, no one liked that guy. He was this old fuddy-duddy from the castle.
I did like that
guy. Yeah, and they killed him. These Bone Reavers. Now, but taking into consideration too that Jade is under the belief that the Bone Reavers killed her parents too. So, like I said this in the notes that basically that actress, I got to look up her name.
Erin Kellyman.
Thank you so much, Erin Kellyman. Disney obviously wants her to be the next big thing because she's in every fucking thing that's a franchise, but all of her reactions are just like these subdued reactions. You'd think that if she's getting captured by the people that potentially killed her parents, she would just be like freaking out or like scared or just like savage, but it just has all these subdued reactions,
Yeah. Again, I think the overall problem here is that they're trying to make the Bone Reavers sound like a sympathetic here, but you're right. In the first episode that they're running away from them. They kill that old dude. Someone makes a comment about Borman, you're alive, as if they knew him. But so they have to tie in everybody into them, and then like they're just like in the forest here, and it was like Zion, the Matrix, but in the woods. It's like weird. It's like there are these people that wear skulls, and they were all like they were all working for Bavmorda, and there was slaying kingdoms and all this, sacking kingdoms. It's a weird choice, I think. I don't necessarily mind the reveal that Jade is the daughter or granddaughter.
I think daughter of Kale.
Like, that's fine to me, but the way they portrayed the Bone Reapers was a huge miss here.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they should have made them sympathetic, and that was a detriment here. The whole time, I'm trying to like theory craft my way out of this episode because I was like just in disbelief the whole time there. They made a comment in the beginning about going into the forest and like people don't go in there because they like they breathe the air, drink the water, and they never want to leave or something like that.
Right.
I thought they were going to take an angle like that, and then it was just all going to be like a dream or a hallucination of some kind. But no, it seems to be real, I guess, and they kind of did leave on a cliffhanger. And that's the one positive I will say about this episode. I really loved the very, very end of this episode. They had this very, cliche, corny, like profession of love between Jade and Kit, and they were about to kiss, and then weird ass trolls come and take her away, and it gets all dark. Everything literally got dark.
Yeah.
Like the color palette of the whole show changed.
Yeah.
And then they went off with her. I mean, maybe it's a little cliche that people keep getting kidnapped for an episode and they have to go rescue them, but I really liked that almost felt like the Samuel Jackson moment in Deep Blue Sea. And then the shark eats them.
Right.
They're setting up the epic kiss, and then it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool little like surprise thing. I legitimately was surprised at it. So that was the one positive I'll say out of this episode. But for the most part, I'll admit I like seeing the brownies too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it was stupid and throwaway. Maybe they didn't necessarily need to be there, but they gave Willow a map. I guess that's their contribution. But again, the brownies were like silly, weird things, so it's a nostalgia thing. So that worked for me because it was cheesy in the movie and it's cheesy here, but it works. That's the kind of thing I want. That's the kind of lighthearted thing I want to see from the show. I guess.
Okay. I understand. You want there to be parallels. Like if it's cheesy in the movie, if it's like a goofy thing, then it could be a goofy thing in the show. If it's serious characters in the serious humans, like serious warriors in the movie, then it should be serious warriors in the show.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a few things to unpack with what you just said. First and foremost, one thing that I see consistently when I see people saying negative things about this show is they talk about how they hate Kit. People don't like Kit, right? And you've said before that like Kit's supposed to be unlikable so that she can have an arc and then you can like her in the end. And I've seen people even address that fact of like, okay, well, she needs to be unlikable. But it just seems like in general, people just think that she's like sarcastic and annoying, irredeemable. And so to see Kit get taken away, I think probably a lot of people were happy. She gets on my nerves. There still is potential where this character could come around and do something. However, I feel like we're 5 episodes in now. I feel like the way the show seems, I don't think that I'll be satisfied with her, like her arc. I'm
sticking to my guns here where I agree that I think she is written in a semi-unlikable way on purpose.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
She has been showing growth every episode, and she becomes more likable every episode. I don't dislike any of the characters in the show. I actually like everybody in the show. And I'm still going to keep watching. I'm still enjoying it. But this was, to me, the weakest episode so far.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I actually like all the characters too. Maybe not Kit, and I don't really like Jade that much. But I do like Graydon, and I like Laura Dannon, and I like Boorman a lot, right? And Willow, obviously, right? But this is another thing I wanted to kind of unpack with what you were saying. With their romance, they act as if the romance is like this like forbidden thing. Like, oh, they can't get together. Now, the only reason as an audience we think it's a forbidden thing is because it's set in this sort of medieval time, and we know that like being gay in medieval times, you would probably get killed. Like it's a very dangerous thing. But the way that the characters talk about them, those two characters, you don't get this vibe of it's this taboo thing, it's this dangerous thing. The other characters talk about it like, oh, I wish you guys would kiss already. Or, oh, it's so obvious you guys like each other. And it's like, if we're saying that this is the same kind of thing as that medieval world of Earth, the idea would be like, oh my God, you're doing something completely sinful, or like you're doing something forbidden. you could get killed. And I just never got that kind of vibe that the world looks at being gay like that on this show.
Yeah, in the movie, I mean, there's a scene where Matt Mardigan is cross-dressing. Yeah, I think it's fine to be for them to be like this and be accepting of everything. I mean, we have multiple people of color, as main characters here. I think this is just a inclusion diversity casting, which is it's fine. It's just they. I don't think every depiction of queer love in medieval time like settings needs to be like you mentioned, where it's like it needs to be shunned and something that shouldn't be happening and should be dangerous for them to do. I think it's fine that the show is just approaching it and everybody's cool with it and they just it's a normal thing. I'm totally fine with that. Again, that's like kind of the lighthearted aspect here, and that doesn't bother me at all. I don't need everything to be super to adhere to actual historical standards because it's a fantasy world,
Okay, so are you saying then that like it's not really a matter of that they have this forbidden love because it's a gay thing. It's more like because they are friends or something that it's sort of this forbidden love. It's like because like they love each other, but they don't want to like ruin their friendship or they're worried that the other one doesn't feel that way. Like it's more like that kind of thing versus like, oh, if we can't be in love because they would show everyone we're gay. You know what I'm saying?
The former.
The first. Okay. All right, that's fine. That all right. I think you got me there. I think you got me swayed on that. Like, yeah. Okay. If it's just kind of like, hey, you can be gay in this world, and it's just that we were friends, and we don't want to like we're worried the other one might not feel the same way. Okay.
Yeah, I think like I think that's it's a representation thing, an inclusivity thing. I think that's fine. Like it does not bother me in the least.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, like with the representation thing, because that is something I've seen with gripes and stuff with these kind of shows is like they talk about like, oh, well, in this medieval setting, like a European setting, there would be like, a lot of white people and you wouldn't see people.
Yeah. Again, though, it's a fantasy world.
Right. But what I'm trying to say is that even in this show, I feel like it is kind of addressed because like Jade is sort of like the exception versus the norm on this show. And like Graydon, he comes from like another country and stuff. So it's not like just everyone mixed is from all different ethnicities. It is predominantly white,
Yeah, I mean the movie was predominantly white, absolutely. But that's just a product of the times, I think.
Exactly.
But again, in this particular instance here, the inclusivity and diversity casting is not. I'm not even thinking twice about it, honestly.
Yeah.
I find it's likable. I appreciate that no one cares that they're different colors or sexualities or even gender roles here. We have some kind of tomboyish characters here. I'm totally cool with everyone be accepting it and this going on, and with their lives.
Nice, yeah. So I knew there was other stuff I wanted to complain about though. No, okay. I think maybe the only other thing was another thing that you said too was the idea that the Bone Reavers were scary in the movie. I mean, there really was only like one Bone Reaver though, right? It was just Kale.
No, but
right?
he had other guys with him and stuff that wore those skull masks.
Oh, they had. Okay, see, that's the thing I should point out to our listeners is that like I have not rewatched Willow since I started watching the show. So
yeah, I mean, in the show here, they're making it seem like they were kind of conscripted under false pretenses. Yeah, and that's like I don't think that works. I really don't think that idea works in the show here, and I wish they would have been kept as more enemies. I want some of these enemies to feel like threats, and right now, I mean, they kind of nerfed the Gales and the Bone Reavers in this episode all in one. So like, what's scary now?
Hopefully the trolls will be kind of scary next episode.
I mean, the trolls were kind of scary when I was like 7 years old watching this movie, or 6 years old, whatever.
Shit, yeah, ditto. Yeah. So like, we appreciate y'all's comments and stuff. Obviously we have some criticism about the show too. But we're gonna keep watching it. We're gonna keep reviewing it. I think like in general, Brian, I've been kind of dissatisfied with the Disney Plus shows with the exception of Andor. I said this in the notes that basically like Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, this show, Book of Boba Fett, a lot of it feels like just sort of like checking off kind of plot boxes and not like a thought out, emotionally satisfying thing. Like it's just kind of like, oh well, this has to happen. Like Moon Knight has to do this, and Willow, they have to do this. They have to bring back these people. And I believe me, I understand that all of the MCU is a lot of that, but the MCU movies that are high on our rankings are the movies that are usually made by like a filmmaker that has a vision versus like the journeyman filmmakers. And
Yeah.
so, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. But at the same time, I think Andor was just an exceptionally made series,
Right?
And I don't think every single show would work.
No,
it would work if every single show was like that. It worked for me because it was a little bit different than everything else we've seen on this platform so far.
Right. And and I even said this in the notes too. Like, I definitely do not want a dark and gritty Willow. I don't need that.
No.
But like, I just feel a little spoiled by Andor because it reminded me of like kind of like the more prestige TV that I watch with my wife versus like the stuff I watch, to review for this channel.
Yeah.
And I hope that we get more stuff like that. With Willow, I do wish that, like, basically what you've been saying this whole episode is like, make the tension, like, make it more real, make the threats more intimidating, right? Yeah. Make things have consequence. Like, yeah, I want that too.
Again, I go back to the end of the third episode. Like, that second half of that third episode was the best thing in the show so far to me. They fought the corrupted warriors. They lost Silas.
Silas, yes, he was the other.
I like them a lot. I already forgot his name, but like Graydon got hurt and everything. It felt that's the kind of feeling I wanted, really.
Right.
So, some mistakes, but not completely like too dark and stuff.
Exactly.
But a little more than what we had in this episode.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we appreciate y'all's comments and stuff for this episode. We're gonna watch this. We're gonna keep watching Doom Patrol, and make sure that if you guys haven't subscribed, you like to hear me and Brian talk about this kind of stuff, please do. And then also, if you ever want to like comment and let us know what you guys think too, we'll definitely address it and bring it up as well. But thank you guys so much. Happy Merry Christmas to those that celebrate. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever you guys celebrate, please enjoy it and know that we appreciate having you guys around. So until then, Brian and I will see you guys next week.